A millionaire CEO falls for his secretary on a blind date by mistake, but didn't realize she works at his own company. Before we start the story, please do well to subscribe to my YouTube channel and comment where you're watching from. Enjoy the story. Sophia took a deep breath before entering the restaurant. She was trying to convince herself that Chloe's idea of a blind date wasn't so bad. Already late, she hurried in and saw a man alone at the back, wearing a white shirt just as described in the message. As she approached, she noticed something curious, a small cake with colorful icing in the middle of the table. Her heart melted immediately. How thoughtful, she thought. Without hesitation, she smiled and sat down. "Hi, you must be Michael, right?" she said while adjusting her chair. "I can't believe you even know my birthday. How kind of you to bring a cake." William looked up, surprised by the sudden arrival of the young woman. Before he could correct the mistake, Sophia continued. "Wow, I've been on many dates, but none were this thoughtful. You've really scored points with me," she laughed, leaning in to get a better look at the cake. William stayed silent, observing the scene. He was there waiting for his assistant, Trevor, who was bringing the birthday guest, his dog Bentley. The cake, of course, was for the dog. But before he could say anything, Sophia picked up the knife. "Hope you don't mind, but I'm going to have a piece," she said. She cut the cake and took a generous bite. "Wow, this is delicious. Did you have it made?" William couldn't help but smile a little, both at the confusion and her boldness. He decided not to interrupt. The moment was broken when Trevor arrived, holding Bentley, a small French bulldog wearing a blue birthday hat. Trevor stood still, clearly confused to see Sophia at the table. "Mr. William, sorry for the delay." "Bentley was nervous about the hat," Trevor said, placing the dog on the chair next to William. Sophia froze, still holding the fork. She looked at the cake, then at the dog, and finally at Trevor and William. Reality finally hit her. The cake wasn't for her. Her face turned bright red. "Oh my God, I'm so sorry," she said, quickly standing up. "I think I sat at the wrong table." Trevor tried to stifle his laughter while William just nodded, still smiling. "Don't worry, it happens," said William, staying calm but clearly amused by the situation. Sophia grabbed her bag and rushed out of the restaurant without looking back. As she disappeared through the door, William kept watching, intrigued. Her spontaneity and confidence had surprised him. William couldn't get Sophia out of his mind. Who was she, and why did he feel so curious about this woman who appeared so unexpectedly in his life? 2 days had passed since the unexpected encounter at the restaurant, but for Sophia, it felt like it happened yesterday. She couldn't forget the embarrassment of eating a dog's birthday cake in front of a complete stranger. Chloe, of course, found the story hilarious. At least it was memorable. "I bet he'll never forget your face," Chloe joked while typing on her computer. Yes, memorable for being the woman who crashed his dog's birthday. Sophia rolled her eyes, trying to focus on her work. Sophia worked at a large marketing company, and her life was filled with tight deadlines, administrative tasks, and endless reports. Despite the rush, she liked the job. It was stable, something she needed to help support her sick mother. That same day, the office was buzzing. Rumor had it that the new CEO would take his position that morning. No one knew exactly who he was, but there was an air of anticipation. Sophia, however, barely had time to worry about it. She was swamped with tasks. When the clock struck 9 a.m., the elevator in the center of the floor opened with a soft metallic sound. Sophia was in front of the door, holding a stack of documents, when she saw the man stepping out. She froze. It was him, William. He recognized her immediately, too. Their eyes met, and an uncomfortable silence hung in the air. Sophia felt her face burn with embarrassment. He, on the other hand, seemed to hold back a smile. "Good morning," said William, his voice calm and professional, as he walked past her toward the meeting room. Sophia stood still for a few seconds, trying to process what had just happened. He was the new CEO. How was this possible? Feeling even more uncomfortable, she tried to focus on her tasks. Meanwhile, William entered the conference room and was greeted by his team. He was there to take over the company and was aware that his arrival carried high expectations. But deep down, his thoughts were still on the young woman from the restaurant. Later, back in his office, William called his assistant, Trevor. "Trevor, I need a personal secretary immediately. Someone reliable who can manage my schedule and handle appointments." A few minutes later, Trevor appeared with a folder in hand. He placed it on the desk and opened it, revealing a series of detailed profiles with photos of company employees. These are the candidates who already work here and have the experience for the position, Trevor explained. William flipped through the pages, glancing absent-mindedly at the photos and resumes until one image caught his eye. He stopped immediately when he saw Sophia's face. Her name was highlighted at the top of the profile, Sophia Clark. He didn't need to read anything else. "I want her to be my secretary," William said, pointing at the photo. Trevor raised an eyebrow, surprised by the quick decision. "Understood, sir. I'll bring her to your office." Meanwhile, downstairs, Sophia was reviewing a report when she got the call. "Sophia, the new CEO wants to see you. Can you come to his office now?" the receptionist asked. Sophia felt a chill run down her spine. Why would the new CEO want to see her? Still trying to process their brief elevator encounter, she adjusted her hair and headed upstairs. When the door to the CEO's office opened, there was William, seated behind an imposing mahogany desk. Sophia froze for a moment, her heart racing. Was he the new CEO? How was that possible? William looked at her and gestured for her to come in. "Please, come in and have a seat, Miss Clark," he said, his tone calm and professional. Sophia obeyed, doing her best to avoid eye contact. William kept his gaze fixed on her for a moment before continuing. "I need a personal secretary, someone who can organize my schedule and coordinate administrative tasks. I've received excellent recommendations about you, and I believe you're the perfect fit for the job," he explained. Sophia felt a mix of surprise and discomfort. Working directly with William would mean facing the awkward memory of the restaurant every day. "Of course, sir. I'll do my best to meet your expectations," she replied, keeping her tone professional. William nodded, satisfied. "Great. Consider yourself hired." Sophia left the office, trying to manage the whirlwind of emotions. She needed the job, but how would she work alongside someone who had witnessed one of the most embarrassing moments of her life? While Sophia wrestled with the idea of keeping things strictly professional, William seemed to have his own reasons for choosing her as his secretary. Reasons that might not have been entirely about her qualifications. When they reached her apartment door, Sophia quickly unlocked it, still embarrassed by the situation. William gently placed her on the sofa and looked around. "Do you live alone?" he asked while she massaged her ankle. "I live with my mom, but she's in the hospital tonight," Sophia replied, avoiding eye contact. William noticed the hesitation in her voice, but decided not to press the issue at that moment. "I'll let you rest. We'll take a break from meetings tomorrow so you can recover," he said, then left. Sophia stared at the door, feeling strangely protected but also confused by his behavior. The next day, William came to her desk with a more serious expression. "I've been thinking about your workload. I know you're working hard, but I need you to take better care of yourself. I don't want you overdoing it," he said, looking directly into her eyes. Sophia felt her face flush. She didn't expect to hear that, especially from someone who was usually so direct and demanding. "Thank you, sir. I'll try to balance things better," she replied, not quite sure what to say. As he walked away, William seemed satisfied with her response. But Sophia knew this closeness was starting to complicate things. She needed to find a way to maintain professional boundaries, even though her heart was starting to say otherwise. The tension between them grew every day, but Sophia knew that getting involved with William would be a mistake she couldn't afford to make. Yet, it seemed increasingly difficult to resist the man who made her question all her rules. The relationship between Sophia and William continued to develop in unexpected ways. Despite maintaining a professional demeanor, Sophia couldn't avoid the moments when William's gaze seemed to pierce through her, as if he wanted to uncover all her secrets. She knew she needed to keep an emotional distance, but his kind gestures and attention constantly disarmed her. One quiet afternoon at the office, Sophia was reviewing the schedule for the following week when Chloe appeared with 2 cups of coffee. "Gossip break," Chloe said, pushing a cup toward her. Sophia smiled, accepting the coffee. Chloe was always a ray of sunshine amidst the chaos of work. "So, how's it working with Mr. Magazine CEO?" Chloe laughed. "Is he as scary as they say?" Sophia hesitated but then laughed. "Heck, not scary. He's demanding but fair, and surprisingly kind sometimes." "Kind?" Chloe raised an eyebrow. That sounds interesting." Sophia rolled her eyes, but before she could respond, Trevor appeared. "Miss Clark, Mr. Bennett wants to see you in his office immediately." Sophia sighed and put her cup down, getting up. When she entered William's office, she found him standing by the window, looking lost in thought. He turned when he heard the door close. Sophia, I need you to accompany me to a social event on Friday night. It's an important meeting with investors, and it would be helpful to have someone assist me with the presentations. Of course, sir. I'll organize everything necessary for the event, she replied, keeping a professional tone. Oh, and William hesitated, something unusual for him. I need you to pretend to be my girlfriend during the event. Sophia blinked, confused. Your girlfriend? William took a deep breath before explaining. My ex-girlfriend, Vanessa, will be there. She's persistent. I want to avoid any awkward or unnecessary situations. It's just for one night. Sophia remained silent for a few seconds. She hadn't expected that request, but it was hard to turn him down. All right. If it's necessary, I'll do it. But I don't want any payment for it, she said firmly. William seemed surprised by her response but nodded. Very well. Thank you for this, Sophia. Friday came quickly, and Sophia felt a flutter of nerves as she prepared for the event. She wore an elegant dress borrowed from Chloe, who insisted on helping her get ready. When William arrived to pick her up, he paused for a moment, seemingly surprised by her appearance. You look stunning, he said, his voice lower and softer than usual. Sophia smiled shyly as they got into the car. At the event, Sophia played her role perfectly, smiling and interacting with the guests. However, it wasn't long before Vanessa approached William. What a pleasant surprise, she said with a fake smile before turning to Sophia. And this is? Sophia, my girlfriend, William said firmly, taking Sophia's hand. Vanessa looked Sophia up and down, clearly trying to intimidate her. How interesting. Well, I hope you both enjoy the evening, she said before walking away. William lightly squeezed Sophia's hand, as if to reassure her. Later, as they were heading back home, William decided to drop Sophia off at her apartment again. On the way, he commented, You were incredible tonight. Thank you for helping me with everything. Sophia smiled, feeling a bit more at ease. It was my pleasure, Mr. Bennett. When they arrived, Sophia stepped out of the car and thanked him again. However, as she tried to walk quickly, she stumbled. William caught her by the waist, holding her steady. You really need to watch where you're going, he teased with a genuine smile. Sophia laughed, her heart racing. But in that moment, something in William's eyes seemed different, as though he wanted to say something more. Before he could, she thanked him again and headed up to her apartment. Dating and living her life instead of working so much. Unable to think of a quick excuse, Sophia responded impulsively. Yes, Mom, he's my boyfriend. Grace's face lit up with a radiant smile, clearly thrilled. Finally, dear. I knew you would find someone good. He seems wonderful. Sophia just smiled, trying not to show her discomfort. After a few minutes, Grace fell back asleep, and Sophia sat by her side, trying to understand what she had just done. The next morning, Sophia asked William to meet for coffee at a small bakery near the office. He seemed surprised by the invitation but accepted without hesitation. While they sat at a table by the window, Sophia took a deep breath before speaking. I need to tell you something, she began, not looking directly at him. My mom saw you at the hospital yesterday, and I ended up telling her you were my boyfriend. William was silent for a moment, but didn't seem surprised. He just raised an eyebrow, curious. And why did you say that? He asked calmly. Sophia nervously fidgeted with her coffee cup as she explained. My mom is always pressuring me to date and stop focusing only on work. She's sick, and I didn't want to disappoint her, so I said it without thinking. William leaned forward slightly, his eyes fixed on hers. And what do you want me to do? He asked, a slight smile on his lips. I wanted to ask if you could pretend to be my boyfriend just while she's in the hospital. I don't want her to worry about me. Sophia looked nervous but relieved to finally say what she needed to. To her surprise, William didn't hesitate. Of course, Sophia. If it will help you and your mom, I'll do it. Sophia looked at him, surprised and grateful. Thank you, William. I really appreciate it. In the following days, William played his part perfectly. He visited the hospital with Sophia, always attentive and caring, easily winning Grace's affection. To Grace, William seemed like the ideal son-in-law, and she didn't hide her joy at seeing her daughter dating. Between hospital visits and work, William and Sophia began to spend more time together. He made her laugh with stories from his childhood, and she impressed him with her intelligence and determination. Even though their arrangement was just a facade, the two began to form a genuine connection. One night, as they returned from a hospital visit, William stopped in front of Sophia's apartment and walked her to the door, as he always did. But this time, before she could enter, he gently grabbed her arm. "Sophia, wait." She turned, surprised. William's eyes were fixed on hers, more intense than ever. Before she could say anything, he leaned in and kissed her gently. Sophia froze at first, but soon found herself returning the kiss, momentarily forgetting everything around her. When they finally pulled away, William looked at her with a mix of seriousness and vulnerability. "I know this is just an arrangement, but it's getting hard to pretend," he admitted. Sophia didn't know how to respond. Her mind was in turmoil, and her heart was racing. She stepped into her apartment without saying another word, leaving William at the door, lost in his own thoughts about what had just happened. The next morning, Sophia arrived at the office earlier than usual. She needed time to process what had happened the night before. William's kiss lingered in her mind, stirring up a whirlwind of conflicting emotions. She couldn't deny how connected she had felt in that moment, but it also complicated everything. William, on the other hand, seemed calmer than ever. When he entered the office, he greeted Sophia with his usual smile, though there was something different in his gaze, as if he wanted to say something, but was waiting for the right moment. The day dragged on as they both avoided mentioning the kiss. Sophia tried to focus on work, but William's occasional glances were impossible to ignore. At the end of the day, Sophia was eager to leave, hoping for some mental relief after days of tension. However, as she exited the main doors of the building, she was caught off guard. Two men were waiting for her on the sidewalk, wearing worn-out jackets and looking impatient. Sophia immediately recognized them. They were the same men she had borrowed money from to pay for her mother's surgery. "Miss Clark, we've been waiting far too long for that payment," one of them said, crossing his arms. "You know our patience only goes so far, right?" the other added, his tone menacing. Sophia took a deep breath, trying to stay calm. "Please, just a little more time. I'm so close to getting the money. I just need a few more days," she replied, her voice trembling slightly. Unbeknownst to her, William had just exited the side entrance of the building and overheard the conversation. He stayed back, watching the scene unfold. Sophia's words echoed in his mind. "I'm so close to getting the money," pieces began to fall into place for him. Their meeting at the restaurant, her sudden involvement in his work, and now this suspicious exchange. Was it all part of a plan to take advantage of his position and wealth? After a few curt words of parting, the men walked away, leaving Sophia visibly relieved. William, without revealing that he had heard everything, got into his car. On his way home, his mind was racing. Was her sitting at my table that day really a coincidence? Was this all planned from the start? He recalled the genuine connection he felt with Sophia, but now doubt clouded every memory. The weight of his suspicions grew with each passing moment. The next morning, Sophia arrived at the office early again, but the pain from William's accusations was still fresh in her mind. Despite being hurt, she decided to focus on work and avoid any personal interaction with him. Her priority was to protect her dignity, even if it meant dealing with the growing distance between them. William, on the other hand, spent the entire night tossing and turning. The conversation with Trevor and memories of the moments he had shared with Sophia left him increasingly restless. What if he was wrong? What if, instead of uncovering a lie, he had pushed away the one person who really mattered to him? Mid-morning, while William was reviewing some documents in his office, Trevor entered hesitantly. "Sir, I hope I'm not disturbing you, but there's something I think you should know." William looked up, frowning. "What is it, Trevor?" Trevor hesitated for a moment, but decided to continue. "It's about Sophia. I don't know what happened between you two, but I know she's been facing a lot of challenges. She doesn't like to talk about it, but her mom recently went through a complicated surgery, and she managed everything on her own without asking anyone for help." Trevor's words made William's stomach churn. He remembered Sophia's kindness, the way she cared for her mom, and began to hate himself for not considering that before judging her. "Go on," William requested, his voice lower. "I heard rumors that she borrowed money to cover medical expenses. I know she's struggling to pay off that debt, but she's never used it as an excuse to ask for anything from the company or from you. She's a proud person, sir. Maybe it's important to consider that before jumping to conclusions." William sank into his chair. He felt the weight of his actions, realizing he had made a terrible mistake. At the end of the day, William decided he needed to talk to Sophia. He knew that apologizing was only the first step, but it was necessary. He waited until the workday ended and went to her desk but found the space empty. Determined, He went to the hospital where he knew her mom was staying. When he arrived, he saw Sophia sitting in the waiting room, her head resting in her hands. She looked exhausted, physically and emotionally. He hesitated for a moment, but took a deep breath and walked up to her. "Sophia," he called, his voice soft. She looked up, surprised to see him there. Her expression immediately hardened. "What are you doing here?" she asked coldly. William sat next to her, feeling the weight of the moment. "I came to apologize. I realized I was unfair to you." Sophia crossed her arms, trying to maintain her composure. "Unfair is a kind way to describe what you did, William. You accused me of something terrible, without even trying to understand the truth." "I know, and I regret it," he said, his voice filled with sincerity. "I was wrong, and I have no excuse. I overheard bits of a conversation and jumped to conclusions. But please, let me make it right." Sophia stayed silent, watching him. There was pain in her eyes, but also a glimmer of something deeper. Something William hoped was the connection they had before. "Do you know how hard it is to be accused of something you didn't do?" she asked, her voice trembling. "I would never do what you thought." "Never." William nodded, feeling the weight of her words. "I know that now, and I'll do whatever it takes to show you how sorry I am, Sophia. Just tell me how." In the days that followed, William made every effort to show Sophia he was determined to make amends. He started with small gestures, helping her with reports, ensuring she had time to visit her mother in the hospital, and even bringing her coffee in the mornings. Sophia, hesitant at first, began to notice the sincerity in his actions. Gradually, her anger gave way to cautious hope. Maybe William really was sorry. One afternoon, while they were working on an important presentation, William paused and looked at her. "Sophia, I just want you to know that I don't need any proof of your honesty. I trust you, and I'm sorry I didn't before." Sophia looked at him, surprised by the vulnerability in his voice. She knew William wasn't the kind of person to admit mistakes easily, and that meant more to her than he could realize. "I believe you, William, but it's going to take time to rebuild what was broken," she said honestly. William nodded, accepting her words. "I'm willing to wait as long as it takes." Though the apology was an important step, Sophia still remained cautious. But there was something undeniable growing between them again, something that even William's mistake couldn't erase. William spent the next few days reflecting on their conversation at the hospital. The weight of his mistake lingered in his mind. He knew he had hurt someone who had only shown kindness and dedication. Every action Sophia had taken, even before the misunderstanding, now seemed full of meaning. She was genuine, something rare in his world of appearances and ulterior motives. Sophia, on the other hand, felt conflicted. While she wanted to believe William's remorse was genuine, his words still echoed in her mind, and the wound left by his distrust ran deep. She tried to focus on work and caring for her mother, but the weight of their confrontation lingered. The next morning, Sophia arrived at the office and found William in the break room. He held 2 cups of coffee, and when he saw her, he offered one. She hesitated for a moment, but accepted it. "Thank you," she said, her tone reserved but polite. "I know I have a long way to go to earn your trust back, Sophia," William began, his voice low and serious. "But I want you to know I won't stop trying to fix this." Sophia didn't respond immediately. She took a sip of coffee, letting the warm aroma comfort her, before looking at him. "Fixing things is about more than words, William. It's about actions," she said plainly. He nodded, taking the challenge in her words. That afternoon, as they reviewed a presentation together, Sophia noticed that William was unusually quiet. He seemed hesitant, as though he wanted to say something. Finally, he broke the silence. "Sophia, can I ask you a question?" he said cautiously, almost vulnerably. She looked at him, raising her eyebrows. "Sure. Why didn't you ask for help? I mean, you're so strong. You always handle everything on your own. But sometimes, asking for help isn't a sign of weakness. It's just human." The question caught her off guard. She stayed silent for a few seconds, searching for the right words. "I think asking for help has always been hard for me, especially because people often confuse it with dependency or inability. I wanted to show that I could solve my problems on my own. It's always been that way." William nodded, as if he was finally understanding something essential about her. The silence between them was no longer uncomfortable. It was filled with mutual understanding. When the workday ended, William walked with Sophia to the elevator. She hesitated before pressing the button to go down, looking at him. "I know you're trying, William, and I appreciate it," she said with a softer tone than before. The small smile she gave before the doors closed warmed William's heart. It was a small step, but a significant one. In the days that followed, William continued to show his sincerity through simple and thoughtful gestures. He made sure Sophia had all the support she needed at work, but he also respected her space. For Sophia, it was hard not to notice his genuine effort. Slowly, the coldness she had felt began to melt away. One evening, after a long day at the office, William suggested they have dinner together to discuss some project ideas. Sophia agreed, and they went to a quiet little restaurant away from the city's hustle and bustle. During dinner, the conversation was light and relaxed. For the first time in weeks, Sophia felt comfortable around him again. They laughed about past stories, and William even shared a bit about his own life, something he rarely did. When he dropped her off at home, he stood at the door for a few seconds, as if wanting to say something, but decided against it. Sophia entered her apartment feeling different. Maybe, just maybe, she could start trusting him again. William, on the other hand, knew this was only the beginning of his journey to win Sophia back. But for the first time, he felt there was hope. Although the wound from the misunderstanding was not completely healed, both felt that the first step towards overcoming it had been taken. As days went by, Williams and Sophia became close and had forgotten about all that happened. One certain evening, Williams and Sophia went on a date, and as they were about to leave, Williams proposed to Sophia, asking her to be his girlfriend. Sophia accepted, and when her mother found out, she was very happy. Williams helped Sophia to pay off all their debts. Sophia was so grateful and couldn't help but shed tears and thanked Williams for his good deeds. On Saturday, William took her to a secluded beach. The sky was painted in orange hues by the sunset, and the breeze was gentle. He led her along a path to a gazebo decorated with delicate lights and flower petals. A table was set with wine glasses and candles swaying in the wind. "William, what is all this?" Sophia asked, stunned by the beauty of the place. He didn't answer immediately. He just held her hand and led her to the table. After dinner, as they talked about the future, William stood up, visibly emotional. "Sophia, all this is to show how special you are to me. You've changed my life in ways I can't even count." He held her hand, then knelt down. "I don't want to spend another day without you by my side. Will you marry me?" Sophia put her hands over her face, surprised and emotional. Tears flowed freely as she said, "Yes, William. Yes, 1,000 times yes." William slipped a delicate ring on her finger before standing and kissing her. The moment felt like a dream, but it was real, and they both knew it was just the beginning of something even greater. Months later, Sophia and William stood at the altar. The wedding day had been carefully planned, with every detail reflecting the love and journey they had shared. Sophia looked stunning in her white dress, while William waited at the altar, unable to contain his smile as he saw her. Grace, sitting in the front row, watched with tears in her eyes. To her, that moment was a miracle, something she never imagined she'd live to see. "My daughter found someone who loves her the way she deserves," Grace said to Chloe, who was sitting next to her. When Sophia reached William at the altar, they exchanged looks that said more than any words. The vows they shared brought tears to the guests' eyes. "Sophia, you've taught me what true love is. I promise to be by your side in every moment, to support you, to love you, and to respect you. Today, I give you my heart," William said, his voice full of emotion. "William, you came into my life unexpectedly but brought light, strength, and love. I promise to love you with all that I am and to face life with you, no matter what comes our way," Sophia responded, tears streaming down her face. When the officiant declared them husband and wife, the kiss they shared was followed by warm applause. The reception was a joyful celebration, filled with heartfelt speeches and dancing that lasted into the night. Grace, watching Sophia and William dance under the soft lights, felt a peace she hadn't experienced in a long time. Her daughter was happy, fulfilled, and loved. It was all she had ever dreamed of. Years later, Sophia and William would look back on that day as the beginning of a new chapter in their lives. They built a family based on love, partnership, and respect. Whenever they faced challenges, they remembered how it all started, with an unexpected encounter that completely transformed their lives. Their story was proof that true love isn't perfect, but it's unbreakable when built with sincerity, effort, and dedication.